and I'm like getting that shake.
Yeah.
Wake up, we gotta go right now. We're going to Drake's house.
This is the Behind the Sound podcast, where we talk to producers, engineers, artists, and other creatives alike. Hosted by Sean Gray and Manik. Okay. Ben.
All right.
Ben Lucid.
What's up? Thank you, boys, for having me out.
Yeah, man. How are you? How's everything?
I can't complain. I really can't. Yeah, I mean, especially being here. You guys invited me out.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is gonna be cool.
Nice.
It's nice to have you, man. It's
Yeah.
nice to actually meet you, because I've heard
Yeah.
a lot about you from Sean and just like through Zoom and everything like that. So it's dope to
I know,
actually
bro.
meet you.
I've like heard everything from like your relationship from like, yo, I've been working with this new guy, Manik. I'm getting him kind of like trained in Pro Tools and recording and mixing, and then like, and now I'm seeing like your placements come in, and I'm like, bro, if you're in the hands of this guy, Sean,
Yeah.
you're gonna be taken care of. So
Yeah.
reminds me of like a lot of my relationship with Keegan,
Mm.
because he was basically the same kind of in the same mentorship position
Yeah.
that Sean is kind of taking the hat of.
So take us there. What happened? Who's Keegan and what happened there?
Keegan was a huge influence on my life, not only from like a business and music point of view, but as well as spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And being in this industry, there's a lot of volume. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of emotions. So I think like having a really good understanding of how you operate as a person, as a human, spiritually, emotionally, is like super necessary to be successful in this industry. If you don't have that unlocked, like you're gonna be tossed around left and right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So so musically though, on the business side, Keegan was my mentor for when I was in school and I was doing an internship. He was currently doing freelance engineering out of the studio in the beaches called Moonraker. And I somehow, out of maybe like a 1 in 1,000 chance of like just calling a studio in New York who was saying they had a friend in Toronto in the beaches that had a studio, because at this point I call 40, 50 studios in Toronto trying to find an internship. That shit does not happen like how you think it does anymore. And if it is, it's like, yeah, you're going to be running coffee. It's like, no way are you going to be sitting in session.
Yeah.
No way are you going to have any kind of input at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
So for me to get an internship, and Keegan's like, yeah, you can just sit on the couch. Let me know if you have any questions.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I sat in on, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 sessions. I was supposed to be there like a 9 to 5 for 2 months straight. I probably went there like 4 times a week for like 3 or 4 hours. But like, 11 p.m., midnight, 2 a.m., start sessions, and we'd be getting back hella late, right? I was using my mom's car at the time. I was living out in Scarborough. So it was really cool for about 2 months. He signed off on my internship. I graduated. That was the end of that. But I kept going back for about 6 more months. I loved the energy. I loved the experience. I mean, I was watching him get to his session. Sometimes the artist would be half an hour late, which he was getting paid for. I'm like, man, just that alone, like, I'm getting paid just because I showed up on time.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Because usually, like, if you go to work and you're late, either you start when you get to work, or you get docked something else, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was pretty cool to watch him do what he does, make almost twice as much as I do doing construction, and and it's all music too. It's something I love. So I just kept going back. But
So-
after 8 months or so, I asked him to move in with me. I was like, "Yo, I'm like trying to do this shit. Like I have a place down the street." And he's like, "Down the street? Down the street from where? The studio." "You have a place down the street from the studio?" "Of course, yeah. Let's do it." It was like $600 each, so we all pitched in. It was $1,200 bucks.
Damn, that's
we
cheap.
were about a
Yeah.
10
That's
minute
cheap
walk
rent.
from the studio.
Oh
You know,
man.
shitty place. It was a basement. Sorry, I can swear, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You're good. You're good.
It was like a cheap little basement, you know, just enough to get by. And so that's when like he started, you know, giving me a few clients. He saw that I was able to run sessions after a few months, or yeah, like 8 months or so. And I had maybe 2 or 3, and I just built up from there. But you know, living with the guy too, like also still learning, still getting that mentorship value. So, so that's Keegan. That's
Nice.
he had a big part in my early career.
Yeah.
And getting my foot off the ground.
Yeah.
And you know, once I think he had seen that like I was able to do shit on my own, you know, we kind of then started to veer in our own directions,
Yeah.
both upward.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe they're gonna collide again, but at the moment, you know, he's out in New Brunswick, and he's basically curated an entire
Yeah. He's doing
you know,
he's
music
doing his old thing.
environment
Yeah.
from nothing, like from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, recording studios. There's multiple sessions going on every day over there. So got to send a lot of love over to that guy.
Yeah.
But and then you know, I got a lot more into production and cooking up in the studio with artists, getting into songwriting, getting into vocal production. You know, a lot more in the pop world, a lot more in the R&B, not so much trap and hip hop these days. But yeah, I mean, all that, you know, stems from the same place. So.
And so where's that place? Well, how did you get started? What's your background in music? Are you classically trained? You know,
I wish I was classically trained.
give us the
That'd be
rundown
cool.
there.
No, I learned a lot of my music by ear. I did do lessons though growing up.
Yeah.
Piano, drums. I think I did a bit of bass like lessons, but not too much. I learned a lot of the bass, like double bass as well as electric bass when I was in school.
Nice.
I think I was in grade 9, and my teacher said I should be in the jazz choir, and I was like, I can't sing. What are you talking about? Like, I'm that's not who I play. At the moment I play drums
Yeah.
and a little bit of double bass and some piano. She's like, no, I want you to play bass in the jazz choir. What? Like accompanying the jazz choir.
Mm.
And it was me, and there was like 30 people singing, and we'd get together every week. And so I was learning like how to, you know, walk on the bass,
Yeah.
some blues, some jazz, and I was getting like a really good feel for, I guess, the intricacies of music, and going like further in depth with just your bass, you know, past the 4 chords, past the, you know, the main progressions that we all know and love so much, which, you know, now that I'm, you know, a decade past that point in my life, seeing how crucial it was for like my development. So I started getting further into jazz growing up. I picked up a little bit more.
How old were you at that time?
At the time, yeah, what's grade 9?
Like
It's like 13, 14?
Yeah, 13, 14. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So around there. I did pick up guitar though, like later in, I think towards the end of high school.
Were these all like your own choices or like forced by parents and stuff?
So my brother actually, like he was big into music, and he was, I think, in he was in university for 1 year doing music therapy. But you know, before that, when he was, I think, about maybe 16 or 17, he was like really good. He was playing like Led Zeppelin, Black Dog on acoustic like flawlessly, like,
Oh wow.
like perfect. He was playing classical. He was doing wedding shoots, not wedding shoots, wedding gigs. He had like super long nails on his fingers so he could play classical
Right.
guitar on a nylon guitar, right? And so he was like a big inspiration. So that's when I really wanted to like take this seriously. So my mom got me set up with some lessons. I eventually did do a little bit of classical, but only the bare minimum, only the amount that you need to teach,
right.
which was, I
Yeah.
think, grade 3 RCM.
Damn.
So I got that, but I can't read. I couldn't read. It was
Can't
so
sight read?
hard. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't sight read.
Yeah,
It was
no,
hard to like, get to a certain point where I could read, but like anything past grade 3, it's like, I'm sorry. And if you were to ask me to do that now, couldn't do it. But I can read jazz charts. So
Yeah.
all I need is the chord structure and the melody,
Right.
and then I can kind of improv the rest. So that, you know, that really helps too in a position where I'm with an artist and we're making something from scratch, and I have to like think on the fly, like, oh, you know, what's good chord to add here.
Yeah, like you have like a solid foundation of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there you can improvise.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like growing up, I had a lot of music just all around me at all times. Listening to music. My dad was a big music head. So growing up, musician. But I had no idea about production
Yeah.
until I was like 19.
So what got you into production? Like who was it? A track? Like what?
It wasn't even that. It wasn't anybody except I was in school for it, and they were like kind of like you have to have this class, and you know some of those classes were like digital audio creation. So it was just like making something on Logic. It didn't really have to be any specific genre, but I was dabbling a little bit here and there. It was all in Logic Pro. I had a little setup at home. I think like a Sapphire interface, my laptop, and like some bookshelf speakers. Nothing crazy. Very, very minimal. And I was just like teeter-tottering around on my piano, just making whatever sounded cool. But yeah, when I was in school, I had classes that required me to actually make music.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I started to kind of find a groove with like making songs, because I played in bands. I played like, I did some music camps growing up. So like I had a really good understanding of playing in a group. And so we'd have assignments where I would have to like collab with another classmate to make a song. And it could be anything. So I would, go to the singers and they're like, hey, can you sing on this thing I made? And it actually was fire. Like some of those old recordings were like really good. And back then, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like the early stuff that you guys were making was like, it's actually super fire, because like your understanding of music and production is just like not there, and so you're just focused on feeling.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it ends up being really cool. And so if you could take that and then combine that with what you know now, I'm like, oh, that'd be amazing.
What's that saying? There's that one saying that I can't remember what it is. Forgive me, but it's basically like it's exactly what you're talking about, where because you don't understand like theory, you don't understand like how to actually like produce a track. You are going based off feel.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the more you know, the less you know, the more creative you end up being.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's like the philosophy behind
Yeah.
Those early creation in any producer's career. And so I'll go back and I'll find stuff like I made off of my old MacBook or my Mac Mini, and I'll see, I'm like, is there any like, can I make something into a loop off this? See if I can like flip that into a 2022 type beat.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned like your parents like playing music and stuff. What's some of the stuff like they were playing while you were a kid that you can remember like was like really like prominent?
I think a big sound that was constant throughout my childhood was bands like Pink Floyd, Genesis, AC/DC, a lot of classic rock from 60s, 70s, 80s that my dad, that was his world. And he actually had a business. I think either he was in high school or college, so he's probably around my age now. And he was setting up speakers in cars. So he was like a guy that someone would go to. They would have like their fresh new Ferrari,
Pimp My Ride.
like and even Pimp My Ride but with speakers. So putting stuff in the trunk, putting stuff like stereo sound, surround sound in a car back then was like, it was kind of costly, and for a manufacturer to make that out of right from the factory is like kind of unheard of. So you have to go to a company or to somebody to set that up. So that's what my dad did. So he was like what would you call it, like an audiophile. Like he didn't play music, but like music was his thing.
Right.
So so a lot of the bands that he was listening to kind of influenced me. One band in particular, though, I didn't mention, was Muse. Muse was a big band that he was into, and they're UK too. It's like for them to have like the success that they had in Canada and the US is huge. But I mean, I could only imagine growing up in the UK listening to those guys because of how big they were in the UK, because they're from the UK. I mean, an amazing band. So those are some of the bands that I remember growing up on, and I think that helped when I got into playing music with a band. I was playing bass. I was doing a little bit of background vocals. We were called Sevens. we played for about 4 years, and for the last 3 years or so, we played a lot of shows all over Toronto. The last year or so, we started to see some pretty good success playing, venues like Horseshoe Tavern, Rebel, Revival,
Nice.
Mod Club. And it was pretty cool, like as a 3-piece band too, just rocking out on stage. And so I think that's where like that band influence from when I was younger really started to poke in. We were in the funk genre though. We were playing a lot of funk. I guess you could kind of combine it like funk rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I think that then kind of sparked where I'm at now with my production.
Yeah.
And involving funk.
Yeah.
And a little bit of rock.
Yeah.
And so it kind of all comes full circle.
At the time, did you know, like, while you were with the band and everything, did you know production was what you wanted to do, or was
No,
it?
I had no idea.
So what happened with the band that kind of like strayed you towards production instead of continuing the band?
Drummers. The drummer. We actually no, like I love the drummer. He was our original drummer, but he left all of a sudden. He wanted to. I think he wanted to focus on school, a little bit more on life. He was unsure what he wanted to do, and me and the lead singer were very focused on music, and that's what we wanted to do for a living.
Yeah.
We wanted to tour. We wanted to play music. Get saucy all the time and just, live life. be on the,
Be a fucking rock star.
Yeah, be a rock star. Why not? Fuck it.
Yeah.
And so when our drummer left, it was kind of like, fuck, the band just broke up essentially. Like, unless we find a new drummer and like catch him up to speed, which we had just done to our, to the last drummer.
Yeah.
So our original drummer left. We had a other drummer for about 3 years, and then he left, and then we got the new guy, which was our first guy. And so it took a while to get him kind of caught up. Like a lot had happened since then. We wrote a lot of songs that were in our playlist for when we go and do shows, and so yeah, it was hard to kind of. It was a hard decision to make. It was either get a new drummer and catch them up to speed, which could take another year or so. And we're already getting gigs that like require us to get a flawless performance.
Yeah.
At the time we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But during that moment also I was going, just starting to go to Moonraker and do sessions.
Right.
And I had, like 2 or 3 clients, and I made the decision of, saying goodbye to the band. Let's focus on engineering and mixing. I wasn't even making beats yet for rappers at this point.
So how was that, coming from, your band's a funk rock band, and then you're jumping into the studio, which I'm assuming it was mostly like trap and hip hop. How did you find that for yourself? Like, was it easy to like
the transition?
That transition to like digest trap?
It was just funny. I thought it was just funny that was my life.
Yeah.
Even funnier too. Before I stopped playing with the band and I was still going to the studio, I had days where we would do a band practice, so it would be like, funk rock, and then I would drive to the studio and I would be listening to jazz on the way there, and then I would get into the studio and it'd be like full blown trap music. So I just had if I had emo in there maybe or some opera, like that would have just been the most dynamic. The whole spectrum would have been touched in every area
within 24 hours.
So yeah, I thought it was just funny. I'm like, oh, this is it. Like I know guys that live and breathe hip hop and that's all they do.
Yeah.
And they are amazing at it. I know I'm not going to be amazing at everything, but there's a few things that I'm really good at. And like at the time I was like, this is what's healthy for me. Like this is what I need. But yeah, then shortly after, that funk rock band kind of was gone, and all I had left was hip hop and engineering and mixing for a few people. So I had to make that then my world. So I focused on.
So it was kind of an accident. It's not like you were like seeking that out. You just kind of happened.
Yeah. Doors are always opening, right?
Yeah.
So I saw that one open, and I thought it would be a good one to go into.
Nice.
Knowing that like. If it didn't work out, like it'll be all good. Like I'll figure out some kind of way to
Yeah.
to make it work. So, but when you only have a few $100s in your bank account, it's a little bit like the pressure's on.
Yeah.
Like you're on.
Especially because you just moved, right?
Yeah.
So,
So, you know, it was either, you know, make this bread or go back to my mom's basement. And, you know, I didn't really want to do that.
Yeah,
I had some
yeah.
family stuff going on at the time. And I mainly did leave to get away from all of that. So
Yeah.
to see myself going back was just not an option.
you
So I
had
was
like too much pride.
Yeah, so
and
it's
at that
like-
point, you had like lit a fire under your ass. You're like, yeah, no, I'm not fucking going
Exactly.
back. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
sick.
And those moments really give you a lot of insight, and you have to really figure out what it is that you want quick. And I find, well, looking back now, this was maybe, I think, end of 2017. So almost 5 years ago. Looking
Damn.
back now,
Bro, you've come so far in 5 years.
oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, like I said, a fire under my ass.
Yeah.
And that fire hasn't gone out yet, which I'm glad. Like I don't need to put it out. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Because that's just how this game is. Unless I, you know, really do something different with, you know, my expansion on my business.
Yeah.
Well, I am doing something different, but like until that moment happens, it's like, yeah, there's like a certain way I have to work.
Yeah.
Right. Being self-employed in Toronto, only doing music for a living is
That's a
not
tough,
an easy,
yeah,
is
that's
not
a
an easy
fucking
thing,
tough
right?
gig,
So,
man.
and you know, I've always thought about like, oh, you know, I could get like a part-time job here. I could do this thing to make some extra money. Like I have people that will ask me to do stuff for money, or a friend will be like, hey, yeah, I've been opening at this thing for a few months, maybe we need some extra people. And I, you know, I could say yes and, you know, make a little bit more, but
Yeah.
I think just living and breathing music is what's healthiest for me to succeed and go as fast as I can
Yeah.
and as far as I can.
Yeah.
And while I'm building my team, it's you know, it's going to take time to really find what it is that's going to throw my business way up in the sky.
Yeah.
And you know, it's great that we're having, I think, this podcast now, because I'll be able to look back in a few months and be like, damn, like
Dude.
I was saying that, and I'm already here now.
Yeah.
So, you know, going back to that fire under my ass, it's hot, but like I know where I'm gonna end up.
Okay.
And I just didn't want to create that plan B by getting, you know, another job. I just wanted to have my plan A and just focus on that.
Okay, so were there can you define any other like moments in your career that that got you to where you are right now?
I
Like-
mean, like big moments, like certain people or certain
Like
songs.
like what it's like give us the rundown of like who you've worked with since you know, making that transition to becoming an engineer out of Moonraker.
A lot of the artists I've worked with are from Toronto, all over Scarborough, Saga, some Brampton Utes, some poor downtown folks, and I mean, for the most part, I think most of them are just starting out, or they've been doing it for a little while. They have experience in the studio. They have some music out. You know, some of them would have zero experience in the studio, and I'd have to kind of guide them and show them how to, you know, we'll show them studio etiquette, because that's like super important for me.
Yeah.
In a professional setting, but as well as like, you know, getting inside their head and seeing why it is that they're there. Because for me, it's like I can only, you know, the best way I can do my job is understanding why I'm doing it. And for me to understand why I'm doing it, I need you to understand why you're doing it. So I really want to expand on those kind of points, you know, before getting into a new client, a new artist. So a lot of the artists were just starting out, and you know, after a little while, I would get some calls, some messages like, hey, I was just thinking like I could send you this guy that I've been working with, or maybe a manager might like hit my DMs and say, I have an artist, they're in Toronto for a month or two, we'd love to come in and see you. So and so said you were really good at engineering, and so I started to get a few more calls.
Yeah.
From I guess bigger artists, and I was like, okay, that's cool. I mean, I'm not like getting any points or anything on the tracks, but that's okay. Like I can charge a little bit more maybe. So after a while and getting a lot more of those kind of clients, I raised my prices, went from that 40 to 50, and that 50 to 60, and what I noticed was when I raised my prices, it was like putting a filter on my like all the artists in Toronto.
Yeah.
So all the artists that can't rap, can't sing, don't have budgets, just
They're kind of like, they're just probably doing it for like a hobby or something.
It's passion. Maybe they're in a group of friends and they think that they have to be an artist.
Yeah.
They think they have to be a rapper because that's their group, that's the social norm, or they live that life, so they have to rap about it. But you know, it filters out a lot of those kind of people, I find.
Yeah.
And the higher your prices go, you know, you only but you only really will get the serious folks unless somebody is just, you know, has fuck you money.
Yeah, I can definitely relate with that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you raise your price and you just tend to attract more valuable clients. Yeah, I can definitely relate with that one. So,
Yeah, I mean, I remember you telling me about some clients that like they came at you and they had like just a massive budget and you were like, dude, like it was like I didn't have a single headache the entire session. It was just like smooth, no issues. Everyone was professional, and it's like, man, when there's bigger budgets, when more money is involved, it's just like it's more professional.
Yeah.
And that's how it's like it's a scale on. In the way I see it is like it's a scale. So. After I, you know, was seeing a little bit more of those kind of artists come through, I think I had one session with with an artist, and I was just engineering, but they asked me at the end, after they recorded the song, they're like, "Oh, do you make beats?" And I was like, "Yeah, I make beats." So I played I think I played 5 songs. But they just went with the first one. Like the first one I played, they're like, pull that up right now.
Nice.
And I pulled it up and, you know, they did their flow on it and they're like, man, like why didn't you, they were almost upset at me actually, like that I didn't show them this beat like before.
Yeah.
They're like, why didn't you like say you produce or anything, man? Like this is fire kind of stuff. I was like, okay, cool.
Well, I mean, because you're engineering, so.
Yeah, I'm engineering. Like that's all I thought was going to happen today. And so, yeah, when that happened, that was a big eye opener for me. So I started like doing that a little bit more with some of the clients that I was working with. Just like, yo, like I know you're used to the YouTube beats. Like maybe you have a few friends, but like, can I play you some songs? And that's when I started to like really understand my clients a lot more. You know, obviously I'm not working with all the same people I used to work with 2 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, but the people that I'm still working with now that I was working from back then are on all of my production. Like they don't go to anybody else.
Right. You told me a little story that, you know, Tory Lanez, you have a production credit with Tory Lanez. So tell me how you go from this then to getting that.
So this was actually a little bit earlier, when I was mainly just engineering. And I think at this point it was like the summer of 2018. So this was actually, a little bit before I was like really making productions, but I was just starting to get into my production bag. I was just starting to experiment with like, yo, what if I like don't make a trap beat this time? And like I pick up my guitar and you know my bass that I have like that just sit there and they've been collecting dust since I was in a band, so why not like get into that? So you know I loaded up some keys and some guitar and I was like, okay, cool, awesome. Showed it to a few people. They're like, yo, this is some funky shit. So I was like, okay, cool. And then Keegan, his girlfriend, she heard some of it and she was like dancing like in the back of my room while I'm cooking up like a beat. And she was like, that was one of the best things I've ever witnessed. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, I just watched you make a whole beat from nothing and it's funky and I'm dancing to it. And I was like, oh, like, okay, cool, sick. So about a month later, the studio that I'm at, manager comes to me, he says, do you have anything in this lane for production? And it was the reference song was like, it was like a Tyler the Creator feature on a Cali track. I think it was called like After the Storm. Okay. It's a really, really funky track. I love it. Bootsy Collins is on it. And so the manager hit me up and he said, we need something just like this. And I didn't really understand how like reference tracks work back then, but I basically just copied the fucking song. Not note for note or anything, but like I was like, okay, I listened to it through and I picked out all the elements. I was like, okay, I can kind of do basically the same kind of bass line, but just different chords. So I made it my own. But you know, if you A-B'd the songs back to back, like you would definitely hear the similarities, but they're also completely different tracks. The manager, I'm sorry, I say manager, but he also does production too. So he heard the song and he said, "This is amazing. I'll send it over to them." I think about 2 weeks later, we got an email back, and in the email it said that they might be able to get Tory Lanez on the track, and I'm over here shitting my pants. I'm like, I've been making music, I've been living on my own, literally for 5-6 months now. And like I'm hearing Tory Lanez is like coming up in conversation, so that's like, you know, that's a good thing. So I just kind of I went with it, and I think two months later we had like a fully finished record. They got a girl to cut vocals for it. Her name's Melody, Melxdie on Spotify. I never actually got to meet her or watch the recording sessions for either her or Tory. I just got to hear the final product. I did a little radio edit on Tory's voice though, because they needed a clean version. So the song's done, end of the summer 2018. The song is called Summer Love. So we're not obviously going to drop the song now. It's the end of summer. So 2019 would have been the next summer to drop it. So months go by. Hey man, I haven't got any split sheets or anything. I haven't heard anything from like the label. Anything on your end? No, nothing. All good. I'm like, okay. What do you think is gonna happen? Like, and the manager said to me, it's in a bit of a complicated place right now because there's some copyright infringement on Tory's bars. And I'm like, wait, what? And he says, yeah, there's lyrics in there that are I think it's either a Tupac or Biggie song. I'm pretty sure it's Biggie, but yeah, there's some lines in there that they had to clear. So I was like, okay, you know, that's not a problem for labels. They do that all the time. No problem. So a few months went by, still haven't heard anything. Summer comes around the corner. Hey man, like, have you heard anything about the song? Like, is our song gonna come out? You know, really excited for it. Like, I really want to be able to like put that in my bio. You know, like work with Tory Lanez. That'd be sick. Nothing. No, man, they're still deciding on like the release date. They haven't even picked the artist name yet. Like, okay, fine, fuck. Like, I know guys that have placements that never come out. Yeah, that's not an unusual thing in the industry. Like, I know Keegan. I think he has like a placement with some. What is it, Gucci? Like, yeah, like Gucci, a Lil Yachty, Gucci something like that. Yeah, I mean, like, no one will ever hear the song, but it's fire. Yeah. He showed it to me. Yeah. I don't know if he was allowed to, but it's just one of those situations. It's like, got the placement, but it's never gonna come out. So I was like, fuck, like that's probably what's gonna happen for this song. Back in 2021, January, I'm on Spotify. I'm just doing a little bit of digging around, seeing who's in Toronto making music, and I see this girl. Her name is Melody, and I see a song that was released with Tory Lanez called Summer Love. Summer Love.
Bro, how did that make you feel, man? My gut would have been like wrenched, bro.
Dude.
I would have been wrenched, bro, honestly.
I almost threw up. Yeah. I almost threw up, like dead ass. Like my stomach just sunk to the ground. Fuck. I'm listening to it and it sounds so good because it's such a good song. It's so funky. It's groovy. Yeah, I'll show you guys after the
And it's
the
your
session.
fucking song.
And it's my beat. And I'm like, what the fuck? I go to the credits to like on Spotify to see if like who's tagged. No producers were tagged. Wow. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I call the manager and I'm like, hey man, so when's that song coming out? He doesn't know that I know. Yeah. And he said, we're still waiting on the label. Like, bro, this guy's been feeding me the same lie for a year and a half. Yeah. Hid the song from me. Didn't give me any credit.
So wait, how long had the song been out at that point?
So it came out 2019, summer 2019. Okay. And then I found the song start of 2021.
Got you. Okay, so the whole summer basically.
The whole summer, up to the next summer, 2020, and then all the way up till the end of winter, into the new year. And then I found the song.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I gave him a call, confronted him. It sounded like he shit his pants on the other end of the phone, to be honest. I got him good. I like spooked him enough for him to reach out, and he put my credits in. Like he was like he knew he was caught, and I think he also knew how many of the other engineers that go to his studio, and I could have just shut his whole studio down. I could have said to all the engineers like, "Yo, this is what happened. Don't go back there.
Yeah.
Don't work with that guy." But I didn't do that. Like that's just like not the kind of person I am. Also, like I want other engineers to be able to succeed in Toronto, and that was where I was able to see some success. So I'm not gonna just do that because I'm upset.
Yeah.
So I got my points. So Ken sent me an email. I have 22.5% on the master.
Nice. So so eventually, he did do the right thing, but
yeah. But he tried to snake me out of the whole
that's
credit.
so shady.
Just
bro.
for a quick Tory Lanez credit.
That's so shady.
He paid me like what, $250. He was like, "Yeah, this is all we got for the advance for the beat, like $250." Like, bro, Tory Lanez. And at the time, this was 2018, so Tory features were like 35, 40, 50K. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's where you have to pay to get him on a track. And he did 2 verses too, which is like super rare for a feature.
Yeah.
Not like a verse and then another verse. It was like the verse was actually the start of the song, and then the second verse was like the bridge or like after the bridge. So it was like a really unique structure, but it felt very 70s, 80s kind of styled. So that's the story of the Tory Lanez credit that I got. That just went to absolute shit. My first credit too. My first like A-list credit.
And you had a bad experience with it.
And it still is not in my bio. Still didn't put that in my bio. No, it's there's a link. I think it's in my bio. It's like a link to a playlist with like some of the production that I've done. I just put it right there at the top.
What kind of happened next? Because now you're running your own spot out of Etobicoke, and you seem to be pretty busy over there. Still working full time doing this. So, tell me how that's been. Getting up and going at Mars.
So
I guess
I
it's
was
not called
introduced
Mars
actually.
anymore,
My first intro to Mars was with you actually. That
Right.
day where Illmind had his event.
Yeah.
Right. So that day I met Megan. I met Jonathan. I met Illmind that day. That was really cool talking with him. But also being kind of like I guess the producer standout, playing the only funk song among 30
all these
other
like trap records,
rap, R&B, trap, hip hop.
It's mostly.
I
it was
think,
like mostly.
Yeah, I mean the only other person that didn't play that was Victor, and it was with my production. So we played Walkin'. Or in its earlier stages before we dropped it, I think 6 months later.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool experience. But then from there, building that relationship with Megan was probably the best thing that I could have done.
Yeah.
We get along really well, and we understand the language. We understand the theory. She has a lot of experience with technique and songwriting. And when I paired all of us when I brought Victor in and realized that the 3 of us can work really well and our synergy was great. I was like, yeah, let's just keep doing this. And I wasn't really thinking of like this is gonna turn into something. I just said, you know what, I like making music with these people. I was just kind of getting an understanding of publishing and writing songs for other artists,
Right.
and getting placements, and that seemed like a really, really good avenue to go down.
Yeah.
On our second session, yes, it was our second session. We were really, really drunk though, so like we just kind of were fooling around. We made a song. It was like pretty good, but at the time, there was some big A players in the building that were with OVO, because there's another studio in the facility.
Yeah.
And it was run by an engineer, producer named Amir.
Yeah.
An amazing guy too, super talented. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
the studios that were in Mars at the moment, it's just me in there. But back then, yeah, there was his studio in there, and I think it was Preem was in there as well with like some of his guys.
Yeah.
From I think Skip was there. You know, a few other guys in the OVO crew. Reps up. Really cool to kind of like see them in the same building, but then for them to also like kind of poke their heads into my studio. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So they listened in, and you know, they asked if they could hear some stuff, and he's like, oh man, like I could hear Post Malone on this, and I'm just like, what? Like I thought he was joking, to be honest, and I didn't even like, to be honest, I didn't even know who the guy was.
Yeah.
I just see this massive chain. This guy's jacked. He's wearing like really fucking fire fit, and like everybody he's with is wearing fire fit. It's like he introduced himself as Preem, but then he followed with formerly known as P Rain.
Yeah.
And I was like, where does that ring a bell?
Oh,
what the fuck is that? Where does that come from? Like I've heard that before.
But
So yeah, and about 10 minutes later, he invites me over to in his room, and he's playing me a few of his records, and I'm like, these are amazing.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I have like a big team. Like we write, I send stuff to the biggest artists in the world. I'm boys with these people. And I'm like, I know all these people that you're talking about, but like, you know, now we're here face to face. So he told me about publishing and, you know, sending him songs. And I was like, the idea of that was just like so intriguing, but as well as like, I have no idea what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
And that also excited me. So I just kind of took that next step forward. I'm like, let's get into publishing, building a catalog, sending our songs around. A few months later, I think in the summer, this was maybe 3 or 4 months into COVID at this point, I came back to Toronto. We started renovating Mars and building it into a bit better of a studio. Yeah. I had a custom desk that I had made, actually, that I was able to bring into the Mars, and that was kind of like the centerpiece of the studio.
Yeah.
It was me, Megan, and Keith Bell, and we had a really great operation going. We were writing lots of songs together. I was engineering for her. I was engineering for a few other people. A little while after that, I started bringing my own clients in. Mm-hmm. And that's where I really started to get a really good handle on making amazing music, not just recording a guy over a YouTube beat.
Yeah.
Because at the time, that's mainly what I was doing, especially at Lynx as well, too, because I was on their roster. But most of the time, I would say 85-90% of the time, making beats, recording over YouTube beats. So getting in the studio with people like Megan and Victor and you and my buddy Tyler, and I honestly could go on, like the list could go on and on and on. And you know, by doing that, just really allowed me to create more of an income in that specific avenue, creating music on the spot. So in person.
Just from scratch.
Yeah. Just from scratch.
Just going with the vibe.
I mean, there's a certain level of patience, I think, that, you know, you have to have being an artist.
Yeah.
But I think the raw organic energy and inspiration, like coming from the same place in the same room, all being made by the people in the room, is something that you can't just craft that, you know, in separate ways. Yeah. Like I can't just go and make a beat and get that same energy by having an artist come in and just record over top of it. Yeah. So it was very appealing to me, and I thought, you know, let's just expand on this. So I started doing a lot more sessions, and I had more people coming to me at a even higher rate now, because I was able to, you know,
not just engineer, but hey, like I'm producing as well. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that is like a higher tier point.
Yeah, and being able to then also engineer them on top of the beat and do a really good job at that, you know, from the years of experience I've had doing that with rappers. Yeah. So that's how I would treat it. It's like, okay, make the beat, bounce it out into Pro Tools as that, you know, that 2-track, and track them there, get all the vocals nice, go back over to the beat and bounce the stems out, curate that around the artist. Now we have a finished song. And that process, I was like, why haven't I been doing this from the beginning? Yeah. I didn't know how to, but like that question always, you know, would come up, like, why haven't I been doing this like sooner?
Yeah, I feel like
it's so much more fun.
Yeah, it's more fun, it's more organic, and like it's just better music just comes from that anyway.
Yeah, so it's going good over at Mars now.
Nice.
Unfortunately, we had to go through a little bit of a switch up. Landlord stuff. The other studios in the building are no longer with us.
Right.
It was sad. It was a little bit of a
Bittersweet.
it was a hiccup moment. I think
Yeah.
towards it was like maybe October. I thought I was actually gonna lose my studio, but fortunately, I was able to move it around the corner in the same facility. So it's literally just my studio is in that building, and nothing else is there.
Which is crazy
Literally
because like
nothing.
that place used to be
And
like
it was thriving before, right? You
with
remember?
three rooms in there. Mm-hmm. No, it's just the one. Him
But
by
also,
himself.
when you came into Mars the first few times, like, what do you remember seeing? Like,
the first time I was there was still Bijan's studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Amir was still there. Mm-hmm. But that's what I remember. It was just the two, and then they had a podcast room.
yeah,
And so I've watched it completely change, and you go through that whole thing too.
yeah, and so I took that podcast from
Yeah.
I turned that into what is now my studio.
Yeah.
yeah. So
So who else have you worked with?
I had a really cool experience in LA last summer.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So I went down there with an artist, and we were going down there specifically just to write music.
Yeah.
And we had sessions that were paid for, that were already kind of booked ahead of schedule. We had studios that we had access to. We did pay. We had a few sessions where I think we did have to pay out of pocket, but nothing that I had to really worry about. I just had to really show up and engineer and track, make some beats here and there, and it was my first experience like doing music, like, and that was the only thing I was doing in LA. The first time I went to LA, it was very casual.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So in LA, doing all these sessions, we had different artists come through, some session musicians sometimes, some other producers would come through. We would get beat packs sent to us sometimes from Mario, Super Mario.
Which is sick.
It's super cool.
He's fire.
Business Boy, he another phenomenal producer, who's I believe he's in LA right now. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was some really cool packs that I was getting, like a Dropbox thing too. I'm like, damn, like I'm hearing some insane stuff right now, like some top tier production.
Did it make you go like, oh shit,
Oh,
I
yeah.
gotta step my shit
Oh
up?
yeah, my shit was. I was like, my stuff is ass. Like compared to this, it's just not on the same level. But being in that position, then I was able to accurately depict what it was about my production. Like, why isn't it hitting this way?
Yeah.
And so I got it. That was just a big learning experience on its own from
Yeah.
from
That's
those
dope.
kind of sessions and hearing those kind of beats. But also hearing how they were written over.
So there were already vocals on those
no,
beats?
no.
Or
Like how we would take the beat, but then
Yeah.
how we would write to the beat too,
Okay.
because of how when you're working with a shitty production, it's like, man, I can't write to it. Like it's hard.
Yeah.
because the
Front
beat's
pocket.
trash.
yeah, there's no pockets.
But like when you're working with a top tier production, the writing is so much more effortlessly. I wouldn't say it's effortlessly, but it's easier to get into a vibe. It's easier to come up with melodies and lyrics when it's just like everything is so cohesive and it's just it's that perfect picture. Like there's nothing off about the beat. There's nothing that's muddy. There's no like the mix is good on the beat. Like everything has their part, right? And there's space for the vocals.
Yeah.
So working in that environment really, I guess, turned up the heat.
Something that I've noticed too is that when you start, like, yes, like the pressure's on in a sense, but when you start working with like more talented people, things are just easier. Like your job becomes easier. I've found, to an extent. How have you?
Yeah, well, no, you're right. It was a lot easier because it wasn't so much of waiting for the artist to like come up with lines or come up with melodies.
Yeah.
It was simply just like, all right, I'm gonna press record. You're gonna do your thing, maybe 3 times, and we'll go through it and we'll piece it together in maybe 20 minutes, and then we'll have like a fully finished song with, for melodies and harmonies and structure. All right, now let's just go plug in the lyrics and we're done.
Yeah.
And we can send that out to the label. And that was a really cool process because it didn't have the tediouties of mixing and mastering and editing and doing that. It's like, well, you can do that, but like this version isn't going to get released into the public.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of maybe some of the background vocals for like a reference track. Maybe I record somebody and I put maybe like 2 sets of harmonies underneath in the hook. They might keep those harmonies in the actual song, maybe super tucked down low, so they're not super noticeable. And so that's like, as far as like the content that we make, most of it doesn't end up in the actual song, but in certain specific situations, yeah, sometimes like the background vocals will get in, and I've heard songs like that. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
So going back to that trip and those kind of those experiences that I had, I think one of the coolest experiences that I had was following not being able to get onto the plane back home to Toronto at what was it, 6 a.m.
Because
we couldn't get our COVID test.
Wow.
Like it was on, I think it was on the website, they have a COVID-19 testing center. It's like a 24-hour thing. You can go in, you pay for it. I think it's like $80.
Yeah.
To get there's like rapid testing. Then there's what's the other test?
PCR
test.
Yeah.
So there was both of those, right? So I actually thought that we were just go up and get our tests and then we could get on the flight, but it was 3 a.m. They were closed. So yeah, we had to move our flights, which wasn't an issue. But that next morning, we got a text at I think 7 a.m. Yo, come to the boys' house. I'm gonna text you the address. And I'm like half asleep. I was up all night before. We were up early because we had to get to the airport. And I think at this point I had maybe 30 minutes of sleep. And I'm like getting that shake.
Yeah.
Wake up. We gotta go right now. We're going to Drake's house. And I'm like, wait, what? What are you saying right now? So we got our shit. We got in an Uber like a XL.
Yeah.
I can order that all the way. Yeah, it was like maybe an hour Uber.
Damn.
From where we were, and we got there. It wasn't so. He actually, I think he has like 2.
Yeah, I think he has.
He has multiple properties, but they're like where we went, I think he had like 2 back to back. Like so, there's like a smaller crib, and there was a studio in the back there, and so we walked around like into the back on the side, and man, like I step in, I'm like so fucked up at this point. Like we were drinking and smoking all the night before too. We were up all night, and I get there, and the first thing I see is Baca, and he's just chilling there on this beanbag, and he hands me 2 like energy drinks, like
The Red Bull?
No. What's that new stuff? Yerba mate.
Oh, okay.
Some yerbas, bro. He tossed me 2 of those. He's like, I know where you're at, bro. I know this will help.
I'm surprised because he's the yellow rock star, or sorry, the yellow Red Bull guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe now. Yeah. There was some yellow Red Bulls. I remember seeing those there.
Yeah.
There was that, but then there was like these guys are up from the night before too.
Yeah.
Like they're still going. Preem's in there. I think TV Gucci was in there too. So I'm sitting there on the couch, and we're just like kind of like nodding our head. The engineers going in, like they're recording. I think 2 hours passed. I'm still kind of there. The reason that we were there was because they needed some like additional songwriting for Certified Lover Boy, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, if I go in and engineer, awesome. If I don't, like, I'm still here.
Yeah,
I get to be the fly on the wall. It's a cool experience. But yeah, I did end up going up to engineer. I guess the other engineer left. I don't know what happened, but it was kind of sudden. He just got out of there super quick. And so I go up and I plug in my computer, get all set up.
And you're running off like 30 minutes of sleep.
Yeah. Oh, well, the energy drinks really, like, they brought me back to life.
Yeah.
honestly, if it wasn't for Baca giving me those two, I wouldn't have even had, because like, you know, when you're too tired and you're like, an energy drink is not going to do shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my body just needs sleep. That wasn't the case. These woke me the fuck up. He handed me a blunt. I took a few hits of that. I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's go. So yeah, we recorded like, I think like 2 tracks, just demos. All for, yeah, just like cutting some demos for the boy. If it was gonna get used or not, that's not something I could answer at the moment. But yeah, I did like a full song with Baca, and that was really cool.
Nice.
So that was like a really, really eye-opening experience. Really nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, I know his name is, excuse me, I'm fucking not nice. I mean,
but he's nice.
In my experience, my one experience with him, yeah, amazing guy.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. Super nice. He understands his shit like really, really well. Top tier. And then I think like 2 days later, yeah, we got like another text back like, yo, come through. And I did a session with TV Gucci.
Yeah.
That was really fun. We did this song. Sorry.
I remember. I remember when you texted, because you texted me one night.
I did. Yeah.
Bro, it was so fucking early, like it was kind of late. I was at work, and I get this text, and you're like, "Bro, you'll never guess where I am." And I texted you back, Drake's house? Question mark. You're like,
yeah.
I fucking knew as soon as you said, "Yo, guess where I am."
Yeah. I texted a few people. I texted my mom. Of course, I got to text my mom. I texted you. I texted Keegan. And Victor.
Yeah.
Or I think I FaceTimed Victor or something like that. But yeah, like I literally texted all my closest homies like, "Yo, you'll never guess where I am right now." I didn't get to see him there. Yeah, so I did that. I did this session with TV Gucci, and we did 10 out of 10. So
on his new project.
That was so that made it onto his project.
Nice.
So the
sick.
features with Just Chase. So I got to engineer that session. It was really fun. We worked on the song a little bit, and then when we got back to Toronto, TV Gucci came back into my studio, and we kind of finalized that, and we did another song after that as well. So yeah, it was cool, and I haven't talked to him really since. I think I said something in the DMs a little while ago. Sent him a pack here and there. Really cool guy. Really cool guy. TV Gucci, and he's like, I think he's my age too, maybe a year older.
So 20.
He's like 26, 27.
Yeah.
28 maybe. I'm
young.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was I think probably the highlight experience.
So like actually going to LA and like getting some credits.
Yeah, like getting some credits to going to, there was a Chubb's birthday party that I was able to get into. I got on the VIP list that Preem put me on, and so I was able to go to that party, which was, I think everybody who was like somebody in LA was there. Like I saw like Chris Brown there, Troy Lanez was there. Diddy was there, Sway Lee,
it's crazy.
All the whole OVO group. I was behind the DJ booth at one point, and I'm just sitting there sipping my drink. I think Bach was like on one side of me. I saw TV Gucci like down a little ways away, and I see this guy start to walk towards me. I'm like, man, that guy looks hell like Drake. As he started to get closer, I'm like, oh shit, that is Drake. And he comes and he like literally stands right beside me. I'm just like, bet. His security's on both sides of him too. And it was just like one of those like, whoa, cool. All right, I'm here now.
Yeah.
I really, there's nothing to say after that. It was just like a cool situation to be in. But I think the funniest moment was, I saw Chris Brown, and he's on a table, and he's like dancing. He's doing his moves, fire moves, and he's like, there's like a whole sea of like girls like around that table that he's on, just like he's just giving his own private show. And I was like, wow, like of course the only time I see him in person, that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This has been really cool.
I kind of want to touch on Saya a little bit, if you want.
So, Saya was introduced to me through a friend, Ali Sue. She's a songwriter, phenomenal songwriter. I actually just bumped into her like kind of in the earlier days of going to Mars, and we clicked, smoked some weed, and we got in, did a session. It was great. 2 months later or so, she hits me up. She says, I have this artist named Saya. We're looking for an executive producer. and we want to finish this album that we're just starting to kind of put together. They had about 4 or 5 songs like done, and I'm kind of like thinking like what is it you want me to do exactly? Because I've never had an executive producer role before that I've had to fill. So I was a little kind of confused on like the dynamic of what it was that I had to do, where my involvement was going to sit, what I could say, what I can't say. But as I, started getting into things and getting into the studio with her, it was just like obviously super clear what it was that I needed to do.
Yeah.
I think 4 of the songs, the beats were already made, or 5 songs. Yeah, 5 of the songs were already made, and she had recorded demos to them. They were okay. They were just rough demos though. Like nothing like this could go out right now. The sixth song was just like, it was like a YouTube reference for a beat that she had kind of written to a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
I heard that beat and I was like, I know what to do to make this thing a million times better. So that one was called Bad Medicine. That one I got to cook up. We did it all from scratch in one session. And it was like think of like the drums from Hold On, We're Going Home.
Okay. Yeah.
So the drums from that combined with like a Weekend styled bass, like that held out low synth bass with some like kind of like guitar like held out
So like
notes, just like very ethereal, very drony, ethereal guitar tone over top of that bass and those drums, and that was basically the beat. I had some really like chords underneath, very very simple, but just like driving. So that was a really cool production that I got to make with her.
Nice.
And her and Ali were working on lyrics, and the other 5 songs, basically all I had to do was like make them like a releasable record. There was some amazing production that was done on some of them. I added, a little bit of drums on one song, a little bit of synth on another song.
Yeah.
Some
just
maybe
kind of
I'll
like filling in pockets.
Yeah, like
stuff,
sometimes like the hi-hats like wouldn't be hitting right, so I would kind of, I would take the same pattern and I would like swap the sample out, or the kick sample might not have been hitting that hard, so I would swap out the kick sample. Like executive producer positions, like
that's pretty cool,
I'm not
actually.
producing this to like make a cool beat, like I'm like trying to finish this beat, make it sound like it's like the best it could possibly be. Adding little risers here and there, background elements, transitional noises, as well as like the vocal production too was like, that was another element that I had to do. So getting harmonies down, placing ad-libs, like knowing like, okay, that ad-lib we're gonna just do like, reverb throw, pan to the left. Okay, cool. Then this ad-lib we're gonna have like 4 vocals saying that same ad-lib, and pan 2 on left, 2 on right.
Yeah.
Would you say you prefer doing this more than
100%?
Yeah.
Because like I have kind of I get that control over like all the aspects of the song, and because I'm producing and engineering and recording, I have a lot of say and a lot of things that I can do, but that can be a lot, I think, for some people. And there was moments where I'm like, there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of responsibility, but all of that can be just packaged up really, really nicely and easy to consume with good communication with the artist.
Yeah.
So if you ever feel like you don't have that kind of communication with your artist, just try and find the time to understand them a lot more. Because really at the end of the day, when I hear something and I try and explain it to you, you're not going to be hearing what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
You're going to be hearing what I'm saying, and then you're going to interpret that and then convert that into your own way of thinking about it. So there's like, even just between me and one other person, there's already going to be some kind of barrier for understanding this art. Yeah. This completely subjective thing that everybody hears differently. So getting that communication on lock with the artist is like always super important for me. And working with Sai was easy. Like, she's an amazing soul. She's really easy. She's funny. She's sweet. And then working with Ali as well. I mean, I think it's in her Instagram bio. It's like fairy song mother. Best description.
Yo, that's actually perfect.
Like, she's a delicate soul, understands emotions like more than anybody I've ever met. understands how to like understand the artist too.
Yeah.
And like I can trust her to do that, but also like helping me understand what I'm going to be doing with the artist and the song and the production and how I'm going to go about the harmonies, and just like an amazing person to have in the studio. So the three of us, did the album over, I think maybe like 6 months,
Nice.
and it came out back in, I think it was February,
Nice.
March.
Yeah, it's fire. It's super
Yeah,
good.
thank you, bro.
Yeah,
it
it's
was.
fire.
It's one of my biggest projects that I'm extremely proud of.
Nice. So what's next for you now? So are you what's on the horizon for Mr. Lucid?
I'm really, really into songwriting and vocal production right now. I think that's one avenue I'm going to try and expand more on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, going down to LA and doing some work down there.
Yeah.
I love the pace. I love the fast moving.
Yeah, it's
gears.
way different than Toronto.
Yeah.
Not that like I haven't been to LA, but from all the stories, I'm like,
Yeah,
hearing stories about it.
Yeah, and like
It's way different.
I heard a lot of stories about LA too, and they were only just stories for me, just like how they're just stories for you guys right now.
Yeah.
But like when you go down there, those stories are not only true, but like way more truer than you would have interpreted.
just way more fast paced.
Yeah, like it's like everything is in front of your face at all times, and I think because they have like we have winters here, we have a 6-month fucking winter in Canada.
Yeah. Basically,
It's like hot and then cold. And that's all Canada is,
Yeah.
like for 6 months at a time. So because it's LA, it's always like nice out, and
Yeah.
so the vibes are always like rolling, and then it's just good energy all the time.
Mhm.
And like they don't have like up seasons and down seasons. Like they do, but not in the same way that Canada does.
Yeah.
Like we have all right.
We don't go from one extreme to
Yeah,
the other.
like
yeah.
guys will plan to release songs in the summer in Toronto because why would I release that song in the winter? That's not
Yeah.
but in LA it's like you don't really have that.
Yeah, no, it's
they
because
don't have
it's
a
always summer,
winter.
basically. Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I know is a true factor in Toronto that I can escape
Mm.
when I go to LA. So my goal is just to really build that foundation somewhere else,
Yeah.
build the network. You stay there for a few months, come back with that network built, and you know that I'll have a lot more reach, a lot more to build on.
Hmm.
So that's my next step.
Nice. Any artists that you're looking to work with or anything like that? Like any?
I mean, I'd love to work with some of the guys like TV Gucci again,
Mm.
and Lavish is another artist. I got to meet him like very, very briefly in that session,
Yeah.
and we just talked for like 5-10 minutes. But like like he seemed like a really nice guy, and I heard like 1 or 2 of his songs.
Yeah.
Really amazing stuff.
Yeah, Lavish is
I
fire.
mean, I've been working with some really cool people. I just sort of started working with a new artist called Jay Vans.
Yeah.
Really fire. Working with him a lot, doing some production, some executive production as well. And yeah, as far as new other artists, I'm in that mode where I feel like I just haven't met them yet.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
like they're there. They're probably waiting for me,
Yeah.
waiting to meet me, and I'm waiting to meet them.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it.
Nice. Well,
Sick. I have one last question.
Yeah, bro.
I've been asking everybody this question. So, in the past year, what's one song that you've heard that's out in the past year that you wish you produced?
Damn.
And why?
Wow.
well, Kendrick just came out. Harry Styles just came out, bro.
Yeah. I'm literally just gonna go to my Spotify real quick to one of my playlists that I think one. Yeah, I would say it's off of Amber Mark's new album.
Okay.
It's called What It Is.
What it is?
And I'm like,
Send
man,
that.
I could have produced this too, but like also like, yo, this is way beyond me, and like like whoever put this song together is just a pure genius. They fit a guitar solo in at the end too, which is just so unheard of, like a full guitar solo, like not just like, oh, all right, cool, we're gonna finish off the hook with some guitar, but like no, there's like a dedicated guitar solo.
Yo,
And that's hard to do nowadays, I find.
Yeah.
People don't have the attention span for that.
No. And like overall, amazing writing. I don't think she uses autotune, or at least not a whole lot to be noticed, because I can't hear it. I hear the natural tuning of her voice, and it's so attractive.
Interesting. We have to check this record
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You have to check this record
Check
out.
the whole album out. It's all phenomenal. Like and you want to know why that I know that was the song that I wish I produced, is because immediately after hearing it, I searched up the credits and I followed the producer on Instagram, and he followed me back.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
sick.
those ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick.
So I was like,
So
sick.
collab?
Yeah, bro.
Collab,
I'm gonna hit
bro.
him up when I'm in LA. I'm like, yo, send me some loops.
Yeah.
Send me some loops, fam.
Or
No, I must send you everything I own. Let me work with you. Yeah.
well, bro, it was nice. It's nice having you on today.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Where can people tap in and learn a little bit more about you?
Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, at Ben Lucid.
Okay.
That's
Dope.
about it. Yeah.
Nice.
Dope.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on Behind the Sounds podcast. Let's get it.
The Behind the Sound podcast was recorded at the Orange Lounge Recording Studio, located downtown Toronto.